For a lot of fans in Toronto, the biggest question heading into the new Major League Baseball season is simple. What version of George Springer are the Blue Jays going to get? Because if last year proved anything, it is that counting him out might be one of the biggest mistakes you can make when talking about this lineup. After a season that surprised a lot of people across the league, Springer enters another year with expectations once again surrounding his bat. Not necessarily the kind of expectations that demand an MVP-caliber performance like the one we saw recently, but still the kind that can shape the entire direction of the offense. When a veteran produces the way he did, it changes the conversation about what this team is capable of doing. If you look back at what he accomplished over the previous season, the numbers speak loudly. In 140 games and nearly 600 plate appearances, Springer put together a stat line that very few people saw coming. He crossed the plate more than 100 times, racked up well over 150 hits, launched 32 home runs, and drove in more than 80 runs. Add to that a batting average above 300, an on-base percentage just under 400, and an OPS sitting close to 1,000, and you start to understand why his season became one of the biggest talking points around the team. For a player who had already spent years establishing himself as a respected veteran, that performance felt like a resurgence. Many fans still remembered the uneven production from the year before, when things simply never seemed to click consistently at the plate. That contrast made the turnaround even more impressive. One season earlier, the conversation was filled with questions about decline and durability, but suddenly those doubts were replaced with excitement about what he might still have left in the tank. Part of that transformation came from adjustments at the plate. Small mechanical tweaks helped him generate more lift in his swing, which naturally translated into more power. By slightly altering his approach and accepting a bit more swing and miss in exchange for better contact quality, Springer was able to turn more of those solid hits into balls that cleared the fence. The result was a power surge that placed him among the most dangerous hitters in the lineup and, surprisingly for many observers, made him the team's home run leader by a comfortable margin. That kind of production is difficult for any player to repeat, especially when age becomes part of the conversation. Springer now moves deeper into his mid-30s, and with that reality comes a level of uncertainty. Baseball history is full of examples of players who hit a sudden peak late in their careers only to fall back toward more modest numbers the following season. But at the same time, few people around the organization believe he is about to disappear from the offensive picture. The expectation inside the clubhouse seems to be something more balanced. Instead of demanding another career year, the focus shifts toward consistency and availability. If Springer can remain healthy and stay in the lineup for around 140 games again, that alone would be a massive boost for the Blue Jays. His presence at the top of the batting order changes how opposing pitchers approach the entire lineup. Another important shift in his role could also help extend that productivity. The team has increasingly leaned toward using him as the designated hitter, a decision that reflects both strategy and practicality. Over the course of a long season, reducing the physical toll of playing the outfield every day can make a significant difference, especially for a veteran who has spent years diving, sprinting, and crashing into walls to make plays. Last season already offered a glimpse of that transition. A large portion of his appearances came as the designated hitter, while his time in the outfield was more selective. He still stepped onto the grass when needed, filling in across right field, left field, and occasionally center field, but the overall workload shifted noticeably. The idea moving forward is simple. Keep his legs fresh, protect his health, and make sure his bat stays in the lineup as often as possible. That does not mean he will disappear from the outfield entirely. Every so often the coaching staff may still place him there, partly to maintain flexibility on the roster and partly to ensure he remains comfortable defensively if the situation demands it. Baseball seasons are unpredictable, and having a veteran capable of stepping into multiple spots remains valuable. But the priority is clearly centered on preserving his offensive impact. And that offensive impact matters even more when you consider the structure of the roster. Toronto has built an outfield group filled with younger players who bring speed, strong arms, and defensive range. Because of that depth, the team does not need Springer to patrol the outfield every single night. Instead, they can allow those defensive specialists to handle the fielding responsibilities while the veteran focuses on what he still does best, producing runs. The biggest question now is not whether he can contribute, but rather how close he can get to the level he showed during that explosive season. Even a moderate step back could still leave him as one of the most productive hitters on the roster. If he settles somewhere around the mid-20s in home runs while maintaining strong on-base numbers, that would still represent tremendous value for a player in this stage of his career. There is also the leadership aspect, something that often goes unnoticed when fans focus strictly on statistics. Inside the clubhouse, Springer carries the reputation of a player who leads by example. Younger teammates frequently turn to him for advice, whether it involves approach at the plate, preparation routines, or simply understanding how to handle the grind of a full 162-game season. That influence becomes especially important for a team with postseason ambitions. Veterans who have experienced deep playoff runs bring a different perspective to the daily challenges of the sport. They know how quickly momentum can shift, how pressure builds in October, and how important it is to maintain focus throughout the long months leading up to those decisive games. Springer has been through those battles before, and that experience gives him credibility when he speaks inside the locker room. Teammates recognize that he understands what it takes to compete at the highest level, and that knowledge naturally positions him as one of the voices that helps guide the group when the season begins to test their resilience. Another factor that continues to shape the conversation around George Springer is the physical demand that comes with playing a full Major League Baseball season. Even for younger players, 162 games can be a brutal marathon. For a veteran in his mid-30s, the challenge becomes even greater. That is why so much attention has been placed on how the Blue Jays plan to manage his workload throughout the year. Springer himself has spoken about the reality of that grind. When a team plays deep into the postseason, the calendar stretches as far as it possibly can. The body takes hits every night, travel never really stops, and the mental pressure builds with every series. After a long campaign like the one Toronto experienced, the offseason becomes a critical period for recovery. It is not just about resting physically, but also resetting mentally before beginning the entire process again. That mindset seems to be exactly how Springer approached the transition into the new season. Instead of dwelling on the success of the previous year, the focus shifted toward preparation. The message around the clubhouse has been consistent. What happened last season, whether it was good or bad, does not automatically carry over. Players still need to put in the work all over again if they want to reach that same level. For Springer, that attitude has defined much of his career. Teammates often describe him as someone who refuses to become comfortable, even after years of success. When he identifies something that can be improved, he attacks it with the same energy you might expect from a rookie trying to establish himself in the league. That kind of dedication is one of the reasons he managed to produce such a remarkable season at an age when many players begin to decline. The coaching staff has taken notice of that commitment as well. They understand that a player willing to adapt and adjust often finds ways to extend his effectiveness far longer than expected. Springer has never been afraid to tweak his swing, alter his preparation, or experiment with different strategies at the plate if it means finding an edge against opposing pitchers. That willingness to evolve could become extremely important for the Blue Jays this year, especially considering how the lineup is currently structured. There are talented hitters throughout the order, but there are also question marks about consistency. Some players have shown flashes of brilliance while still working toward establishing themselves as reliable contributors over a full season. Because of that, having a steady presence near the top of the lineup carries enormous value. Springer is widely expected to spend a large portion of the season batting in the leadoff spot, a role that places significant responsibility on his shoulders. The player at the top sets the tone for the entire offense. He is the one who sees the first pitches, forces the opposing starter to reveal his arsenal, and creates opportunities for the hitters behind him. When Springer is producing at a high level in that spot, the ripple effect can be felt across the entire lineup. Getting on base consistently means more chances for the middle of the order to drive in runs. It also forces opposing pitchers to work from the stretch early in games, which can change their rhythm and sometimes lead to mistakes over the plate. That connection becomes even more important when you consider the presence of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. further down the order. Guerrero remains one of the most dangerous hitters in the league, and having runners on base in front of him dramatically increases the damage he can do. If Springer can maintain a strong on-base percentage, he essentially becomes the catalyst that unlocks the full potential of the offense. Beyond the numbers, there's also the chemistry factor. Players often talk about how certain veterans help keep the clubhouse environment loose and confident, even during difficult stretches. Springer has developed a reputation for being one of those figures. He communicates easily with younger teammates and is known for offering guidance without creating pressure. Stories from inside the clubhouse frequently highlight moments where younger hitters approached him for advice about their swings or approach. Instead of brushing those conversations aside, Springer tends to embrace them. He understands that helping teammates improve ultimately strengthens the entire roster, and that mentality has helped build strong relationships throughout the team. Those relationships can make a difference during the inevitable ups and downs of a season. Every team goes through cold streaks where the offense struggles or the pitching staff hits rough patches. During those moments, leadership becomes just as important as raw talent. Veterans who have seen those cycles before can help keep the group focused and prevent frustration from taking over. Springer's competitive nature also plays a role in how he influences the team. Even after more than a decade in the league, he still approaches the game with visible intensity. He celebrates big plays, dives for balls that seem out of reach, and runs the bases with the same determination he showed early in his career. That energy tends to spread throughout the dugout. Of course, the big question remains how long he can maintain that level of performance. Age eventually catches up to every player, and baseball history offers countless examples of stars who faded quickly once their bodies could no longer handle grind. But Springer continues to give the impression that he is far from ready to slow down. There is also the possibility that strong production this season could influence his future with the organization. Players who prove they can still deliver meaningful offensive numbers often attract interest when contract decisions arise. If Springer manages to put together another productive campaign, the conversation about extending his time with the Blue Jays could quickly gain momentum. From the team's perspective, the value of a veteran designated hitter who can still hit for power and reach base consistently is significant. Even if his time in the outfield continues to decrease, a reliable bat in the lineup remains one of the most valuable assets a club can have. Teams across the league constantly search for hitters capable of stabilizing an offense. All of these factors combine to make the upcoming season particularly intriguing for both Springer and the Blue Jays. Expectations are high after the success of the previous year, but the path forward still depends on whether key veterans can sustain their impact. Springer sits right at the center of that conversation, not only because of what he does with the bat, but because of the leadership and experience he brings to the clubhouse every single day. But before we move forward, don't forget to join our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest news about the Los Angeles Dodgers. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the news, so drop a comment below. A shockwave rippled through baseball circles after reports surfaced that the Dodgers have made a blockbuster financial commitment to superstar outfielder Juan SOTO, a deal rumored to be the largest contract in the storied history of the franchise. While official details remain scarce, insiders around the league are already buzzing about the scale of the agreement and what it could mean for the balance of power in Major League Baseball. According to early whispers from executives and agents familiar with the negotiations, the Dodgers front office moved aggressively to secure SOTO as the centerpiece of their long-term plans. The organization has never shied away from bold moves, but the figures being discussed suggest something even more dramatic: a salary package that eclipses every contract the club has previously handed out. The speculation alone has been enough to ignite debate across clubhouses and front offices. SOTO, still in the prime of his career, is widely regarded as one of the most complete offensive forces in the sport. His combination of elite plate discipline, power to all fields, and postseason composure has made him a coveted target for years. For the Dodgers, landing a player of that caliber under a record-setting financial commitment would send a clear message about their ambition to dominate the next era of baseball. League observers believe the move could reshape the free agent market as well. If the rumored numbers are accurate, SOTO's deal could set a new benchmark for future superstars negotiating long-term contracts. Rival teams are already watching closely, wondering whether the Dodgers have once again reset expectations for how far a franchise is willing to go to secure generational talent. For now, much of the story lives in the realm of rumor and speculation. But in a sport where financial power often translates into competitive advantage, the mere possibility that SOTO could be wearing Dodger blue under the richest contract in team history has already captured the imagination of fans and perhaps unsettled the rest of the league. That's all for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay up to date with exclusive news about the Los Angeles Dodgers, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We always appreciate your comments and feedback. See you in the next video.